one, and I hope the fact that we're missing all these people means that they're out working at polls somehow. Because a number of people just said, I can't come, I'm working at polls. Or they're doing, you know, Richard Azimus, who comes here all the time, he has kind of taken people away to be at lunchtime and dinner time and breakfast and whatever. He's got them going. Is that Karen? No. Okay. Okay. So, now, I have to tell you, I got this phone call last night from Ethan Kissick. Ethan Kissick, and I have written over there on that sign because it's on a pole there, so you can get it coming and going. I'm going to tell you about it. And I have to tell you, I have a feeling that this is a little bit late. They're doing a get out the vote phone bank this afternoon. Now, if you haven't voted already, and you should have, if you haven't voted already, are you going to be home? You should be going out to do the vote this afternoon, and then. But they're going to be phoning people from. I'm going to go down because it's AFTAB's office, and I haven't been to AFTAB's office yet, for better or worse. So I'm going to go down there. It's at. I have the address there, 1177 West 8th Street. Now, evidently the real important part of this phone bank is that Tom Perez will be there. Tom Perez used to be Obama's Secretary of Labor, and he's now the chair of the Democratic National Committee. So, and if you want to, there's a bigwig in town, folks. A bigwig. If you want to meet the bigwig, you know, the big honcho, that is Tom Perez, former Secretary of Labor, and he will be down at AFTAB's office between 12 and 2?
No,
12 and 3?
1 to 3.
1 to 3?
Yeah.
1 to 3. 1 to 3, it's there. Okay, so.
What's the address?
The address is 1177 West 8th Street. It's on the sign there.
Side. Corner of 8th and Dalton. It's
Corner
on
of
the south side
8th
of
and Dalton. That's also on the sign. Yes.
On the south side of 8th Street.
On the south side of 8th Street.
You'll see it. It's very prominent.
Now it's here. I've gone down there before it was open, and it wasn't very prominent before it was open. I'll bet he's got it all fixed up. Okay, so I wanted to make that announcement. We still have naturalization ceremonies coming up. If you haven't done one, think about doing one. I'm doing one, and there's only 2 of us so far on this Friday, on May 11th, on Friday at 2 o'clock. But you have to be there by 1:30. So if you're interested in that, see me, and we'll get you in. And it's really kind of neat. You get to sit in the jury box. You get announced by the judge. You get to stand up, and you stand up, and the judge announces your name, and you go. It's really fun. Okay, so naturalization. Okay, we're going to come back to the other stuff. Some introductions. Peter. There's Peter. Peter is our newsletter person. Tell us about the newsletter, Peter.
It's the MailChimp is a tyrannical, vicious creature who throws people off the list. Alberta and I have already been thrown off. So if you're not getting the newsletter, fill out one of these cards, and ideally what seems to trick them is if you're fortunate enough to have more than one email address. That's what I did for both myself and for Alberta, because when I tried to put my old address back, I got an angry note in red saying, "You can't do this." So I'm trying to figure out.
I'll give you my other secret.
No, you've been getting the newsletter, right?
Not this week. Don't cry. Please don't cry. keep trying, because when I got it last weekend, it was really nice. I really enjoyed that. Anyway,
Whatever the trick is, I don't know it yet, but if you are not getting it, please fill out a card with your email address, preferably an alternative one if it's already been rejected. Any other announcements you would like in the newsletter, which I usually try to get out by Thursday at the latest, please put on a card, printed as clearly as possible. Sometimes I can't make out the message, but I would be happy to include it in the newsletter.
okay, other announcements? Other announcements? Right here.
A bit of sad news. Two progressives from Cincinnati, Murray Grace, who worked at the Hamilton County Juvenile Court Center, and Ed Jaspers, who was the field rep for the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers for years. Both of them passed away yesterday afternoon. The same day, Murray was going to a doctor's office and had a heart attack. Ed had fallen and broken his hip, and he was due to be released from the hospital, and we think he had a blood clot. And so they passed away, so think about them. There were two big union activists, and they always worked very progressively on campaigns. So hopefully they'll be looking out for us and guiding our way as we're going through these the elections coming up. Also, there's the CEJC meeting, Cincinnati Educational Justice Coalition meeting on Thursday, 6 o'clock at the Fire Museum on Court Street.
There you go. There we go, Martha.
This is not about something that's happening.
Martha, hold the microphone like
Oh,
this.
is that,
No,
okay.
get parallel to the floor,
Oh.
yeah.
Is that it?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I just wanted to report that the May Day brunch held by the workers at the Cincinnati Interfaith Workers Center was a wonderful occasion last Tuesday. But the reason I mention it, after a wonderful ceremony in a church downtown, an old church called now the Bell Center, we walked about 6 blocks, about 50 of us that had been at the ceremony, to the Hamilton County Justice Center, where we took a proclamation for Sheriff Neal, appealing to him to stop calling ICE when people are stopped for traffic violations and taken to jail. We said, don't call ICE. This was
Has he been calling ICE?
Yes, he had.
naughty
Even
boy.
though we're a sanctuary city, but the city, of course, doesn't have a jail. We can't control the sheriff. And so.
Oh, yes, we can.
One of our members took this proclamation to him in his office. I think he was able to hand it to him. And we had our banners and our shouts and everything. I hope we got a little attention. But it's just, there's so few things you feel like you can do for immigrants. This was a little something, So, yeah, that May Day brunch is always good. So, thank you.
I didn't know that about the
I just have a
show.
I will remind you,
meeting at the Fire Museum.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock at the fire meeting on Thursday.
I will remind you that the sheriff stood behind Donald Trump. Thank you. I'll remind you that the sheriff stood behind Donald Trump at a Trump rally in uniform in 2016.
That's sad. Very sad. Let's see.
Was he going to arrest him?
He has some pro-Trump sentiments.
How are we doing? Any other announcements?
The guy who
Things going on in town?
we did a postcard writing.
I guess all of the candidates are figuring they're winding up now. They didn't come today. I don't blame them.
Does anybody have an update on Todd Fortune? Does anybody know how he's doing?
Remember he had his leg
He had his leg
amputated.
amputated.
I think he's back at work.
I thought he was back at work.
Really?
He's an amazing man.
I thought he was back to
Absolutely
work.
amazing.
No, he actually thinks he can walk better now without the leg than what he did before. So he's very positive.
What a guy.
There we go, we're still thinking of him. Okay, without further ado then, I want to introduce today's speaker. We have a really good-looking speaker today. DeVoe Sherman is one of Cincinnati's premier millennial entrepreneurs, known as the Electrified Speaker. Now I have to tell you, when I saw Electrified Speaker, I had this vision of somebody with an electrical cord sticking out that you had to plug in, right? You're with me, Susan. You obviously had the same kind of thought that I had.
She's cordless.
He's cordless. He's cordless. Okay. Electrified. He is the educational director for both the First Generation Leaders of America, the FGLA, and the Rise Business Academy, where he helps other small business owners create a plan for their own business ventures. DeVoe Sherman is 24 years old. Folks, this is our future, and I want you to meet him. His name is DeVoe Sherman. Here you go.
Well, that was quite the introduction. See if we can get the screen right. All right. So I wanted to bring up one of the mentors that works for First Generation. Keep doing that. Yeah, I want to bring up one of the mentors that works for First Generation Leaders of America. His name is Jeremy Merriweather, and he's going to tell you his experience and about what he's been doing, kind of like the, outgoing period. So I'm going to come up real quick. Thank you. Thank you. And one thing, you got to kiss the mic in order to, so they can hear you. Well, yeah, you get that one. Keep this one. Yeah, you got it.
How about that? We got it? All right. As he introduced me, my name is Jeremy.
You gotta kiss
A
it.
little bit louder, a little
You
bit
gotta
louder.
kiss it.
All right.
You gotta
Can you hear me
kiss
down in
it.
the back? You got me in the back. So, born here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I actually started my journey off as a life insurance agent. Still am one, proudly. Still speak up, I'm sorry. Started my venture as a life insurance agent. I'm actually still currently one. Mr. Sherman here actually invited me to a symposium. He actually orchestrated at UC. Invited me and other entrepreneurs to come and speak about our own crafts and our own professions. And I just love the environment. The fact that one person was able to bring together these many creative people. And I was like, what else do you do? Because I want to be able to influence whatever you are touching or be able to propel you further. I'm sorry, I really do got to kiss the mic, Don. So he kept me on board and kept me in tabs with what he was doing and asked me to come along to a couple of the schools. And just to sit in and view his goals work out itself. And I've watched kids who knew him a little to nothing, but immediately grasped on what he was saying and what he tried to convey. And from that point on, I figured this would be a great platform just to be able to speak to the young minds, see what people are thinking and what people are teaching. I'm not a teacher myself, but I like to feel like I have influence. And we need someone who actually can set up the platform and allows us to actually perform. So through FGLA, I've been able to express myself and cry a little bit because, as we know, these kids are actually living lives not meant for children, more so for an adult. And schools have taken completely out of its system those core values in living life. I got to speak to Ms. Katie for a second about how schools and children associate themselves with that result, the grade, the letter A to F, and that determines whether or not they're innately smart. We completely left out the actual process and how to study and critically think and problem solve. So now kids thinking that if I receive an A, life should come easy. That's not how it works. Because you receive the A, it's due to the process Now use this process and set scenarios and different forms of life in front of you, then we have a real entrepreneur, a real problem solver, and a lot of our mentees here at FGLA. So my experience has been short for about a year because I plan to go a lot longer, and it's been quite expansive on my profession. So I look forward to what the poll and FGLA has to show. Thank you guys.
Wow, that was quite the testimony. I wasn't expecting that. All right, so we're going to get right into it. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Sherman, and I have a PhD. And what that means is I was poor, hungry, and determined. So poor, meaning I had a poor mindset. I didn't understand the value of monetary gain. I didn't understand how to save money, how to invest it, you know, different things like that. And I also not having a lot of money could also be detrimental as well. So I didn't have a lot of resources growing up in the neighborhood that I still live in currently, which is Mount Auburn. Going to school, didn't have a lot of resources at all. But I was hungry, just like a lion. I was always on the hunt, trying to figure out a way to escape the jungle. Because in the jungle, there's so many different animals, there's so many different diseases and parasites and different things that you can get if you're not careful about who you associate yourself with. You know, because in my neighborhood and even in the school environment, there's a lot of negative recreation. As we know it. In certain times, you can't really control that environment. You can't control it. You just become a part of it, or you have to either distance yourself from it. But what I learned to do was I had to be determined enough to, okay, I'm in high school now. I can get a job, I can help out my family, and I can go to college. So my journey was, I graduated from Woodward, and then I attended the University of Cincinnati. I studied there for about 4 years, studying political science and liberal arts. And I also worked for American Federation of Teachers Labor Union. So if any retired teachers in the room say, woo, yeah. Yeah, so I did that for about 4 years. I worked on numerous political campaigns, so anybody that the union endorsed, I worked on that campaign as a contractor, specializing in public relations and marketing. Now, managing 10 to 15 campaigns was a lot on my plate because I was still a college student. But it definitely helped. It gave me a lot of experience, a lot of insight. I met so many different Republicans. And I was like, you know, I listened to their core values and just try to make sense of what they were, you know, what their ideas were. And I never was rude to them. I just let them rant. And then I said, okay, bye. So just learning, just being in that field and learning the different types of people, it actually helped me grow as a person as well. And from that, now I sit on a lot of different boards. So I'm the vice president of business development for Mount Auburn Chamber of Commerce. Not sure if anybody heard of that. I'm also part of the Community Council, Urban League Young Professionals, and NAACP. I was just a recent board member there, so I'm involved in a lot. It's because I think I can't sit down, you know, I'm like electrified. So from there, here we are with FGLA. If I could. I think I need a tech assistant. Okay.
The clicker, you have to point at the computer, not the screen.
Yeah, the clicker you point at the computer.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
unless you want the point to something.
Yeah, I actually do.
That was the National Program Director for Move to Amend. She came to town.
We just have to.
You want to do it?
Exit that out. All right, sorry about that. So today, first generation leaders of America. What we do here is we build the next generation of leaders. How do we do that? We basically mentor and guide youth, basically helping them with their social, emotional development by teaching them leadership skills. So in this slide, we're actually going to talk about the value of mentor, because I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room has been mentored by somebody that had a positive impact on their journey. So everyone someone contributed to somebody else's success on their journey. All right? So, what will it take to build the next generation of leaders? These are some core values that we tend to focus on for our students. So, as you can see, college and career readiness, we want to prepare them for that, life skills and motivation. So actually having them kind of look at, you know, hey, if you are going to be a college student, if you are going to be an entrepreneur, if you are, you know, going to work for someone, you have to be motivated and you have to learn the different types of skills, whether it's soft and hard skills, whether it's social skills, leadership. So you need these life skills to actually do what you want to do. You need these skills. And it's back.
Alberta.
All righty.
Alberta.
Here she comes.
There you go. That's yours.
Sure. All right, so here we got so we have a couple different high schools. We have Taft, we have Woodward, Schroeder, and a couple more, Aiken. So we, in order to actually build the next generation of leaders, we start in the high school. We start with the high school students, just because they're much more relatable and active. All right. So in the face of so many obstacles, as you can see, the numbers kind of say it. Cincinnati today, so 48% of our children live below the poverty level. 48%. All right, and 52% live in single-parent household, lacking positive role model. And 15% of Cincinnati high school students drop out each year. 15%. That's kind of bad. And this is just not, and this is black and white. Okay, this is just not somebody, there's nothing separate. And we have all types of kids in our programs that need help. Because at least one of those kids fell through the cracks. Or somebody didn't guide them in the right directions to where they made a bad choice. So everybody needs help. All right, so today our schools are not graduating enough career-ready students. Okay, if you look at the numbers here, it's it can almost seem depressing, because what we're doing is we're jeopardizing Cincinnati's future growth. And the thing what we want to do is, when we look at economics, we want to bring corporations here to do business with the city, because what happens is the city and the corporations, you know, they provide jobs, you know, for our children, for our grandchildren, whoever they may be, you know, for the next generation of leaders. So if we don't have a talented workforce that can execute these skills that the corporations need, that the small businesses need, then we're all going to lack. So Cincinnati employment rate is 4%. 4%. Unemployment, yes, correction. So if we do not start graduating students that are career ready, then Cincinnati's economy is going to take a big risk of a shortage of computer system analysts, accountants, auditors, and a whole bunch of things. So we don't prepare them now, then we're facing a huge problem. Okay. Alrighty. A new program piloted at Woolwer High School may be the answer. So in September, a teacher, her name is Miss Akajobi, she reached out to us. She said, hey, I love what you guys are doing at other schools. Can you come to our school? Can you help our kids? And of course we said yes. And right now, what we've been able to do, which we'll talk about later on in the slide, we support the efforts of the teachers. So we, during class time, we're actually doing a program from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., right? So as school is going on, we're actually in the classroom with the teachers, supporting them every step of the way for that 1 to 2 hour time limit. We're actually supporting them. So we're doing a career readiness program for the kids that are at Woolworth. So look at us as like the mediator between the students and the teachers. We're basically building that bridge because there's a big gap. There's a huge gap. You know, you have some students talk about how the teachers may say this, may say that, or may do this, and we have to explain the teacher side of, hey, she just really cares for you. She wants to see you succeed. And sometimes students don't understand that. They look at teachers as the authoritative figure and they do not care. But teachers actually, they really do. They just have a hard and tough way of showing it. All right. So with that being said, in our program, we engage the kids. So it's not how you all are sitting down. We do a lot of team building activities. We do a lot of role playing scenarios. So whether it be conflict resolution, anger management, we're actually talking to the kids about these different issues that they may have at home or they may have at school. So we're actually working with them through those issues, showing them, hey, there's a better way to handle conflict. All right. So if you look, this is our model. It's called the FGLA for Life approach, right? So again, we have team building. That's one of the areas that we focus on. Can just hit the, thank you. We want the students to become self-sufficient, problem solving, creative expression, so allowing students to actually express their issues that they're having at home or the issues that they're having with the teachers. We're actually creating a space to where they can actually talk about their problems, right? And then we also do the role playing. And who we hire is part-time employees, ages 22 through 27, because they're aspirational and relatable. You know, they understand the issues of the youth. All right, and the model continues. So FGLA mentors complement teachers. Remember, as I stated before, we support the efforts of the teachers. So kind of the areas that we kind of look to improve on are academic performance, attendance, personal responsibility, self-discipline, situational, appropriate behavior. So these are kind of like some things that we identify when we are helping these kids. And these are some areas that we help them improve on. So when they go through our program, and our programs are a year long. So we're with the school a year long. So it's not a 6-7 week program. All right, so it's been developed and tested in local schools. So I've been doing FGLA for about 6 years since I graduated in 2012. along when I was being a college student as well. So I had a lot on my plate. But I was very resilient to trying to figure out a way to tackle Cincinnati's problem. And I've been able to do that starting with a program that we have at Woodward Technical Career High School. So if you look at it, FGLA has tested and tracked several formats of mentoring and tutoring programs, grades 3 to 12, in classroom, after school, youth center. So we've done a lot of different programs. We don't just work with schools, we work with nonprofits, we work with group homes, we work with counselors, we work with all types of people that have youth. If you have youth, we can work with them, no matter where they come from. Everybody needs help, all right? So compared to 2012 to now, we basically been able to increase a couple different areas. So we've been able to increase grades, attendance, and behavior. 3 areas, and that's the data we'll show you at the end of the presentation of what we've been able to accomplish, all right? And kind of how it looks, the format is we do grades 9 through 12, okay? 25 to 30 students per class. In every high school, they have a study skills course. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, we're doing 1-hour sessions with them in that study skills course. Again, supporting the efforts of the teachers, all right? So, solving Cincinnati's future, I believe that FGLA can do it. We are the missing puzzle to the struggle of everything that's happening in Cincinnati. I think that we are the missing piece behind it all. And so whether it be high schools, youth centers, employers, churches, colleges, and universities, FGLA can actually complete the puzzle, if you allow us to. All right, so these are some letter recommendations for all the programs that we've done up to this now. It's not all of them, but if you recognize somebody, that's perfect. If you don't, that's fine as well. But these are people who, clients, sort of say, schools, nonprofits that we work with that actually believe in our program. All right. Alrighty, so this is me, my name and my phone number and email. This is the website. So if you want to, check out what we do, we even have sponsors. I know a few of our sponsors was AT&T, Beacon Orthopedics, and the Family Gardner Foundation and TriHealth. They sponsored our program last year to be able, on a financial level. So if anybody would like to sit down and meet, discuss sponsorship, donation, whatever you can give, we take all. So move on to the next slide. So I know it's a little blurry, but as you can see, GPA will increase. So if you look at all the other classes, we're at the top right here, right? So if you look at the top versus all the other classrooms that didn't have our program, you can see the difference. Grade point average 2.0, attendance 90.5 versus all these numbers, right? Big difference. Behavior points. So, in the schools they actually track behavior points. So on the average, 95.5, 97.5. That was the average. So this data is from September to October. This is what we've been able to accomplish over a 2-month period. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's very impressive. Very impressive. Thank you.
All right, very good.
What was that?
Can you read out some of that?
Yes. So in Miss Akajobi's class right here, grade point average was 2.03. All right, and attendance was 90.5 versus all of the other teachers who didn't have our program.
And what were some of those numbers? Can't read those.
Okay. So, that's a lot of teachers.
Go to long.
Okay, go to Long. Okay, so Long, He had GPA 1.35 versus our 2.03. All right. In attendance, it was 66.7. Oh, I think she's doing something to the screen. Okay.
Oh, she made it clear.
Oh, there it is. So you guys can read it, right? No, all right. All right. So in behavior, it was 90 versus our 97.5. And what I can do is I can leave this up so you guys can kind of see it, but I'm gonna go to the next slide if that's okay. All right, so this is results from December. All right. So again, versus, we're gonna actually go to long again. We had Akajobi class, which this is us right here. 1.86 in attendance. Well, GPA 1.86, attendance 93.4, behavior 100%. So a total class score of 240.04. Now if you go to long here, 0.93 GPA. All right, and then you go to the attendance. So 77.8. So it's saying that the students are there, but they're not doing anything, right? So they're just coming, they're just there, they're just there. All right, so behave.
Can I say something a second?
Yes.
Long. I happen to know Long personally. In fact, I got him the job at Woodward.
Oh, perfect.
He's a Army veteran, fought in Afghanistan, and he has a phenomenal rapport with his students. So when his students come and they work in the classroom, but you can see the difference that happens when you have folks like DeVoe working in the classroom with these kids to mentor them, to know that there is more for them. So the teacher alone can't do it, but what they're doing is making an astronomical difference.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so there we are. All right, let's see. So I think that was the end of the presentation. I guess I'll take questions. If there's any questions, I'll take, yes.
How many, those were all the teachers that were in the mentoring program?
They're not mentoring.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not.
Only
So how
one.
many actually
So
are?
up
What is
here,
it?
right here.
Yeah, how many teachers do you have in the mentoring, how many teachers are involved in the mentoring program at Woodward?
We took on another, go to the data. We took on, and I'll show you, yeah. So we took on Miss Campbell's class in January.
Okay,
So we have 2 teachers that's involved
okay.
as well. So there's only 2.
How are they selected? How are the students selected?
It's based off the teacher's classroom. So if these 2 teachers reached out because they needed help. So that's how that happened. Yeah.
Do you see, I'm sorry, do you see this program expanding to other schools?
Yes, it already has. This is just where we tested it out first. But it definitely is going to expand. We had TAF, we actually had all the high schools that's in CBS reach out, even some of the charter schools, because in their, LSDMC meetings, they're saying, how are they doing it? Nobody knew that we were actually doing this type of program. So I got a lot of calls about it, so I definitely think it's going to expand because it's working. And we have data to prove it.
Question here. So how many mentors do you have in each classroom? And I know you have the 1-hour program. Do they have other programs too that they do, or how long are they in the school?
Yes. So all the programs that we do, they're year long. There are about 2 mentors in the classroom, and we do it twice a week for 2 hours. So let's say for Woodward, we're doing Monday 11 to 12 o'clock, and then from 12 o'clock to 12:35. So we're actually doing 2 classrooms. but we're doing it on Mondays and Wednesday. So.
Do the mentors work individually with the kids or in a group with these exercises?
Yes, they work in a group. So in a classroom, as you know, there's about 20 to 30 students. So we're actually teaching them from a career readiness curriculum, teaching them about the difference between soft and hard skills and why it's so important. So yes, to answer your question. There are 20 to 30 students. That's how.
I just asked how large are these classes, 20 to 30?
Yes, 20 to 30 students. Yes.
Do you have a mentor training program?
Yes. All of the training programs are based on the type of curriculum that we have at each school. So let's say for instance, we did a 10-week program for Frederick Douglass Elementary. All the mentors go through a training on anger management and conflict resolution because there's a curriculum based off the type of program for that particular school. So every program is going to be completely different. Like at John P. Parker, we're doing a health and wellness program plus mentoring. So that program is completely different from Woodward's program. But this right here is the model that we want to expand to the elementary schools as well, if we can. So, yes.
Have you presented this model to the Board of Education to see if maybe they could get this kind of thing in all the schools? I mean, it's not rocket science, right? It's like, and how much might that cost to get this included in all the high schools anyway?
I hate to answer that question, I'll be honest with you.
All right, take it back.
Well,
Be perfectly candid.
Oh, okay, you don't want to answer that, okay.
Yeah,
I just want to say, you know, when I first heard about this, I was very apprehensive of all the emphasis on leadership and entrepreneurship, because to me, I associate that with the worst of capitalism, pitting everybody against everybody. But what I love is that you are actually confronting some of the structural barriers that are across the board that are not just a matter of people sort of feeling, well, I've got more character than you have. So I'm just very pleased to hear what you're doing. Thank you.
Are you the person that started this? I mean, did you do this on your own, or how did this get going, actually? And how many volunteers do you have, and how many paid employees do you have?
Okay, perfect. That's a lot to answer. I started it in 2012. On my journey from graduating from Woodward, I attended UC, and to me it was like God gave me a vision. He gave me purpose to say, hey, I need you to help Cincinnati's problem. Because I know for me in the neighborhood that I live in, there's a lot of negative recreation. A lot of people do not make it to high school. A lot of people do not make it to college because of choices, because of lack of guidance. And for me, I wanted my life to be different, and I wanted to be able to take care of my family because they didn't have the funding or even the time to take care of me. You know, so I look at it as this thing was fault versus responsibility. I took it upon myself to be responsible for my own self. So that's how I was able to escape those cracks. Even with getting a job, I couldn't get a job just because, I don't know, people were saying, hey, you're overqualified. And so that led me to explore entrepreneurship and to keep doing this. And again, I don't know why, but you know, it's like, hey, you have to, when you're in a neighborhood to where there's no positive outlet, you know, you have to actually turn that frustration and that anger to something positive. And I think that's for me, that has worked for me. And that's what I did, you know. But in somebody else's case, they might look at it as, hey, no, I can't get a job, I can't do this, you know, I can't do that. And they look at it as, hey, you know, Cincinnati has failed me. that's how other people are looking at it. But I tell them, hey, turn that negative energy into something positive and use that in order to build something up. When I was at UC, I started it at UC, and I was going out and testing it out. You can look at me like a fly on the wall, like a scientist. I was discovering the way CYC was doing it, the way Operation Give Back, United Way. I was looking at all their different models to see which way are they doing it and how are they doing it. So I was that fly on the wall, just looking and getting a lot of insight and just asking questions and interviewing people, because I used the benefits of a college student. So I would actually go inside an organization and say, hey, tell me everything about your organization, from the model to the logistics, how everything is structured. By being a college student, you can, do things like that, right? I'm pretty sure we all have been one. So I kind of used that to build FGLA. And I'm still kind of testing different programs out. So I'm like a scientist. I'm kind of like a mad scientist. I really want to figure it out, right? So I use different controls, modules, and different things like that in order to solve our problem that we all have. Oh, mentors. We have about 30 mentors. Half of them are volunteers and half of them are paid employees. They work on a part-time basis, from 10 to 20 hours depending on the type of school that they're at. And all our funding comes from grants, donors, and sponsorship.
To answer Bennett's question earlier about school board and funding for this kind of program, DeVoe mentioned it. The LSDMCs, the local school decision-making committees at each and every school, have the authority to do a needs assessment for their students and reach out to people like DeVoe. It does not take the school board to go out there and say this. It's just that they have to find the funding for the program.
Exactly.
That's all. Now, recently I read an article out there. We are always talking about the top 1% and the Betsy DeVos and all the crazies that have been going out there. And in the past 20 years, what's been going on with charter schools and vouchers. There is an idea out there that the corporations and the top 1% don't want our kids to be successful. They don't want them to be leaders or entrepreneurs. They don't want them to think for themselves. They want a population of servitude that will live at poverty levels, and so that they want to be able to control what people do. And there's a book out, and I'll post that on our website. It's just crazy when you read it and you look at it, you say, it makes total sense. This is the vision that they want to go for. So thank you so much for fighting against that model. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you come across CityLink, that their mission is to get adults out of poverty? I don't know that much about them, but I do know they have classes on social skills it takes to hold down a job, and they teach classes on syllable job skills. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yes, I've heard of CityLink. I know some organizations that kind of do. They see me as a little competitor, so I'm not sure if they would like me to come and do our program, but I'm all for it if they would like to, because I know currently we're working with some young adults around my age at CAA, Community Action Agency. We're doing a program there, and it's working. It's really working. But that's different from Woolworth's program. So.
I wanted to ask a question about, I'm over here.
Oh.
Hello. About the conflict resolution for training.
Okay.
The reason I'm asking is because there was, and I don't know if it's there anymore, I did 2 years of the conflict resolution with a group that used to be at the Presbyterian Church on Auburn. I don't know if they're still there, I mean, I'm just interested in where your resources for that conflict resolution training is.
Okay, so our curriculum, when I was at school, UC, I had a teacher, and a professor, and she helped me actually build the curriculum out, a career readiness curriculum, along with anger management and conflict resolution. But I also had, there are resource coordinators at all of the schools in Cincinnati Public. And all of them, they all have master's degrees and different things like that in education. So they actually helped me build the curriculum out as well. So their expertise, along with mine, along with UC's, they all was a part of helping build that curriculum out. So with the conflict resolution, just to give you a little snip of it, it's kind of like, there's different styles and ways to handle conflict. There's accommodation, there's compromise, there's corporation use it. It's called competitive. Putting people against each other, type of thing. So we talked to students about that. And what's funny is we did a 10-week anger management and conflict resolution skills at Frederick Douglass. And the teachers, the resource coordinators, the school told us that these kids are applying those skills right now. Like, they're actually helping other students say, hey, don't talk to the teacher like that. If you want to talk to her, you talk to her like this. You handle the conflict like this, So they're actually being advocates for supporting the teachers. So, we do have data on that. I just have to figure out a way to format it correctly to get people to understand it like this. So, yeah. Yes.
So, speaking of pieces to the puzzle, there's a piece that's often never looked at in terms of schools and kids and behavior and performance, and that's food. And I don't know if it's something you have an opportunity to look at, but I'd like to urge you to have a look at, I think it's called the Central Alternative School in Appleton, Wisconsin. That was a school for kids that were like last chance kids that had been tossed out of other schools, had all kinds of problems. They had police in the hallways and stuff. And they were approached by a group that basically the main thing they did was, aside from taking all the sweets out of the vending machines and things like that, and putting fruit in the hallways that kids could grab on their way between classes, but they recognized that 85% of their African American students were lactose intolerant. And yet the food programs that they were working with the federal government insisted that everybody was given milk. So they took milk largely out of the diet. They made like a turkey lasagna with vegan cheese or something like that. And milk was still there for the parents that said, I want my kid to have milk. But it was over in the corner in one of those milk vending machines where you could get it for yourself if your parents said you had to have it. But most of the kids didn't get it anymore. The whole school turned around. It took less than 2 weeks. And teachers that had applied for early retirement decided to keep teaching again because suddenly they had attentive students who were interested in learning again. And they tried one experiment where once every semester they would go back, they'd have junk food day and they'd let the kids eat anything. And by the end of the day, the kids were either bouncing off the walls or crashed in the corner. And the kids would then beg them to bring back their food as they saw it. And for many kids, this was the only meal they had all day. And I read about it and I thought, this just sounds too amazing to be true. So I telephoned the principal of that school. Her name was Luann Cohn. And she told me, I said, is this hype or is this true? And she said, look, every year I have to fill out forms with the state of Wisconsin about every form of behavior that we have in the school, everything from truancy to fighting in the halls to graffiti to bringing guns to school to suicides. you know, and she said, we did this program for 2 years. That's how much funding we had for it. And for those 2 years, I was able to put zeros in every category both years. And the only thing that changed was the food. So I want to encourage you to think about that piece of it and how you might be able to work with that piece.
Thank you, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on what Katie was saying. I think it's not exaggerated to say that especially older Republicans really hate education in the broadest sense because they're haunted by the memory of the 60s. There was like way too much critical thinking going on. So I think it's important to make a distinction between training, which is very important, training for specific contemporary skills, and education, which allows people to learn. I mean, for example, if you're totally tied into coal mining, you have to have enough intellectual flexibility to learn how to become a solar panel installer. So, I mean, teaching people how to teach themselves seems to me one of the most important skills. So I still think the distinction between training and education in the deepest sense is extremely important. And I appreciate what you're doing, but I think critical skills, critical thinking is not something that is widely endorsed by the people who control our society.
Good point.
Really quickly, just to make a point, because I have to. When we're talking about businesses and corporations and public education, if they want the homegrown talent, they damn well better invest in our public schools.
All right, you're right.
There you go. Marlena speaks truth. Now, I am really impressed. I have to tell you, this is our future, and I think we have one if we can get more people like this working with people. Thank you so much for being there today. I just want to mention that lactose intolerant business thing. That goes way back for me. When I was in the Peace Corps, one of the things that we as Peace Corps got was the big milk cartons that went to the Philippines. And not understanding that the Filipinos are lactose intolerant as a people. So they would take the milk, the powdered milk that came over, and they would feed it to the pigs. It was pig food. Because that was the way they could actually use it when they had. And of course, in our household, it was a very welcome thing because that's the way we got milk with the Peace Corps volunteers. But I think you have to have an understanding of your population. And I also want to speak to the just changing the environment and agree with DeVoe. For years, I taught in a classroom, a chemistry classroom. And when I'm a chemistry teacher of 32 students on Bunsen burners, I do not have a whole lot of time to go around and be personal with my students. And when I went to the virtual high school, where the kids were independently on computers, but had to have every lab one-on-one with me, I could see the light in their eyes go off, and it was so exciting for me as a teacher to finally get and meet my students. You understand, it was a whole different thing for me to be more personable, and that's why mine was a recovery school where we took the kids that didn't succeed in the regular classroom, and we had, so, and Cincinnati is pretty good about having alternatives for kids for whom it's not working. And I want to commend Cincinnati Public for that, because I was in one of those places, and I'm real excited about that. Okay, any other announcements?
If you haven't voted, vote. I got an announcement. Early and often. I want to thank everybody for their support. I was elected today.
Yeah! Precinct executive.
I'm a precinct executive, and I was, sort of inspired to run after coming to this luncheon. I think I've been for a year or so. It's
Luncheon of luncheon.
one of the luncheons, yeah, right. And, So, I think that we're gonna try to invite all the newly elected precinct executives, and in a week or so, or how many ever days will be, I'm gonna have, everybody can have a drink. You can have a drink on me. We're gonna open a bar. You can have a drink on me. But I love this group. I never miss. Thank you.
And congratulations to all the newly elected precinct executives like me. You saw my ballot, I thought that was good. And I thought that was one of the interesting ways that I, as a precinct executive, interacted with my precinct, was that I delivered one of those filled out ballots with all the democratically endorsed folks. And I had those on my table, on the tables around here. I handed those out to over 220 families or houses in my precinct. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of, or it can be a lot of work if you actually take it on. My lesson plan, wait a second. I'm going to go into my lesson plan. We have speakers coming. Here's my lesson plan. And coming next week is Peter Haynes, public engagement. And then we have our own Laura Weaver right here. Raise your hand. Thank you there. Thank you, Laura. She's going to be here on I never get these when I recognize the letters when I see them, but I never get them right when I'm saying them myself. LGBTQ rights. When I know how to print them right, but when I never get it right when I say it. You know what I mean?
It's actually a new formulation that isn't Q, and I've forgotten what it is. It's a new one. LGBTQ rights. And everybody better practice that because we're going to have to be talking about that on May 27th. On the May 29th, we had the power of unions in the 2018 elections, and that's with Pete McLendon. We have the polls are open. Educate yourself and go early or late. If you want to go down into AFTAB's office and meet Tom Perez, go ahead and do that. It's from 1 to 3, so we have a little time left. To be phoned, and we have to finish off the food. And what was that?
She's looking for containers. To-go containers.
I'll look for them. They're in the kitchen somewhere.
I already went back there and looked. I already went back.
They're getting food containers, and it will happen. We will find out. We'll find out how to do that. Okay, thank you again for all your wonderful questions. I love feeling like you guys are really understanding what we're trying to do here in terms of presenting our community and trying to understand that we are trying to make things better here in Cincinnati. And we need to know about it. We need to know that I think it makes me feel better about my community and I'm hearing about all these positive things that are going on. So thank you for coming, thank you for being involved, and have a good week, and let's go follow our election and find out what's going on today. Thank you.